Hey, welcome everybody. Coach BK with the Wolfpack Tri Club, and today we are talking about protein. So this is video 3 of a bunch of videos on metabolism. I get started and the dogs just join me. Okay, here we go. So what we're talking about is protein. What does protein do? And I have been watching in the nutrition world. You know, everybody's like, politics, religion, nutrition, really. And I've been watching in the nutrition world where kind of the plant-based and the animal-based and they're clashing, and I get it and I understand why. But we need to understand functionally what protein is doing, how the body is designed to work. And then we kind of understand protein's a little bit different than your carbs and your fats. If we understand that, understand what's going on, we're going to have a better chance of improving our health culture-wise. You know, we're very ill here in the Western world. We're very carb-heavy, and I think it really simplifies it down. One of the biggest changes that you can make in your diet, regardless of if you're paleo, if you're this, if you're that, if you're plant-based, if you're animal-based, lower the amount of carbs, increase the amount of protein, and clean up what you're eating. Stop eating trash food, eat real food. It's just very simple. It can be very simple. So we're talking today, though, we're talking about how the protein world, the macronutrients, overlaps with nutrition, overlaps with some health topics such as hormonal balance, performance. We want to be healthier, we want to perform well, and so we need to kind of understand some of these things so we're a little bit smarter athletes, so we know and we understand as an endurance athlete, if you're training for a half Ironman, or we're doing this long swimming activity, like the 100 challenge. If you want to do that well and not completely devastate your shoulders, you need to be eating right in order for the body to repair. You're doing something to cause it to change and adapt. If you're not giving it adequate nutrients, it's not going to be able to do that, and you're going to end up injured. And that's the story. That's the common story. So I'm hoping that this video you get an idea of how vital protein is and how it's a little bit different than your carbs and your fats. From a chemical point of view, it's different because it carries with it nitrogen, and so then things are different. Okay, but why do we need to think about protein as differently? And just so you know, this is going to have an article that goes with it, so you can just listen if you want to go back to the article. And on the article, there will be links to Smarties studies where I pulled some of this information. So this isn't just me saying this, a functional nutritionist. This is a lot of different things going on, and all the links are in the article, and you'll find that in the YouTube links down there. Okay, here we go. So we know as endurance athletes that we need to fuel the body, right? And so we are thinking about glucose. And then we're thinking about protein, fats, and whatnot, right? And we tend to lump protein in there as well. We think about glucose, and we need to think about protein separately, like I've been talking about, because protein is kind of the building blocks of everything that's going on. We'll get into that more a little bit later. Yeah, I mean, you can't say that carbs and fats aren't providing useful stuff as well, but we need to understand, just to give an example, that enzymes are made from amino acids. You ain't gonna do jack with your proteins, your fats, your carbs if you don't have enough enzymes to digest your food. So we really need to kind of understand and back up, and don't villainize protein because the plant-based world says we don't need to be eating animal and stuff like that, and animal becomes protein and blah, 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 blah. We need to take a step back and understand that protein is a macronutrient that the body is designed to use, period. Okay. So on a sciencey point of view, protein is broken down into amino acids. Ta-da! Amino acids. There's an amino acid pool that the body uses. Another really super cool difference between protein and carbs, fats, is that it doesn't get stored. Okay, you can store your carbs, you can store your fats. You're not storing these amino acids. You have this system of kind of moving around and circulating, and it pulls and it uses it, stuff like that, but you don't store it. Well, you do store it. You store bones and you store muscles. And so if you don't have enough amino acids, there you go. You kind of eat yourself. Cannibalize, if you want the real word. There we go. So there's 20 different amino acids. 8 of them are essential. On this link, there's a cool little list of what they are and kind of some molecular breakdown of them. If you want to get geeky and go look at that chart, it's got pretty pictures on it and colors. Okay? So again, we need to talk about and understand that the body is designed to use proteins to do 1,000,000,001 things. On this article, there's also a breakdown of some essential amino acids and what they do. I will give you an example. Lysine, immune system support, collagen production, blood sugar support. Okay, none of that said make glucose so you can run your 5K. Let's see, another one that I can say. Tryptophan, precursor for serotonin and niacin. Okay, those are all like feel-good stuff. Feel-good stuff. We want to feel good. So we need to understand that these amino acids, the stuff that we get from protein, is critical. Very, very critical. And so if we're not getting enough, stuff bad happens. So the critical role of the amino acid pool is to maintain homeostasis in the body. Okay, homeostasis means that everything is functioning right and the system is continuing to go. Homeostasis isn't meaning necessarily that everything is optimal. That would be awesome, but like me right now, I am not completely 150% healthy, but I am maintaining homeostasis. My blood pressure is doing this, and I'm doing this, and I can sleep, and I can eat, and I can da-da-da-da-da. That's homeostasis, just kind of this continuing process. It doesn't mean that it's perfect, and it doesn't mean that it's completely good, okay? So I drew this picture. I don't know if it's backwards, but so this amino acid pool, the idea that I'm wanting you to get from this is from your dietary protein, your body digests it, and it's kind of this living pool resource. And you have plasma pool, and then you kind of have localized in the tissue pool, and then it kind of stores it there locally. The article has better pictures, but down here we're saying that amino acids are building enzymes, tissue, plasma, hormones, hemoglobin, antibodies. Okay, that's from your amino acids. And new amino acids, so if you are recovering from surgery, if you're making a baby, like pregnant, or if you're doing a Ironman, half Ironman, or running a half marathon very hard and you needed to repair while you're doing it, that's going to happen. New protein compounds. And when you think protein compounds, please try not to limit it to the understanding of we're talking about muscle. We're also talking about bones, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, cartilage, everything, okay? And then this Metabolism, dealing with CO2, H2O, urea, some things that are going on, and the amino acids help with getting rid of compounds that would otherwise be toxic in the body. And so that's all going on. And the other thing that proteins can do is that they can be utilized to produce glucose, ketone bodies in order to fuel the body for doing whatever you're doing. But that's not the primary purpose of proteins. Okay, primary purpose of proteins is to support every single function that's going on in the body. Amino acids make hormones, and hormones do everything. Okay, so amino acid deficiency can result in decreased immunity, Digestive issues, depression, and probably all the other stuff too, depression, yada, yada, yada. Fertility issues, lower mental awareness, slowed growth in children. There's just a slew of health issues that come when we don't get enough protein/amino acids. So protein is broken down into amino acids. Some stay in the muscle area, in the tissues, for what they're calling a muscle protein pool, used for recycling for new muscle proteins. And then this is where it comes in, and we'll mention the branched chain amino acids, or the BCAAs. And these are kind of super cool. They're used locally to transfer, for use for energy transfer. So one of the things that the amino acid pool does is it makes transfer proteins, and transfer proteins are things that get things in and out of cells. There's a lot of words, things, but anything that comes in and out of a cell, some things have to have transfer proteins in order to get it back and forth. Okay. You have your plasma amino acid pool that's running in your blood, and they say that generally you have about 100 grams of amino acid in that at any one time. And it would be interesting to see an endurance athlete, how fast you would blow through that, saying you were doing your racing Kona. That's a good, interesting question. Okay. There's some other amino acid pools: adipose tissue, triglyceride pool. Okay, the body's pretty cool. So the amino acids go into this plasma pool, into the blood, to get circulated and used by cells, or it goes into the liver to be used for whatever, kind of a little bit of a repository. Making glucose, possibly ketone bodies, cholesterol, fatty acids, utilized for the energy transfer that we were talking about. I'll add right here, this is an interesting topic, and it comes out a lot when you sweat. What's that stinky smell? You smell like cat litter or ammonia or whatever. So if you're not eating enough carbs, and you are going into your amino acid store or utilizing that system, something happens and it kind of offshoots, and it results in a buildup of ammonia, and can be toxic if the body doesn't deal with it. So what the body does is kind of package it up and sweat it out, and so that doesn't build up. So that ammonia is a byproduct of not burning carbs for fuel, but utilizing amino acids for fuel. Maybe not a bad thing as long as you have enough, but folks that have kidney issues or liver issues really don't want to mess with that, because it can be taxing on that system, because that system is heavily used to do all that. So people doing low carb diets, or going into workouts completely fasted and not eating breakfast, might experience this. In this article, there's a cool little chart about the amino acid pool and what it's doing, and we talked about it back here. That's what that is. Okay. Know that the body is constantly rebuilding itself. I think that we tend to think that if we're not doing anything, it just sits around and doesn't do anything. But like your skin, it sloughs off. I don't know how fast the skin regenerates itself. Pretty quick. I think it's every 3 days, but I don't know. If you're healthy, your hair grows really fast, and your fingernails grow really fast, and they're strong. So your body is constantly repairing itself and rebuilding itself. Your liver rebuilds itself, and you get a brand new one every 6 weeks. Your bones, I think, take 18 months to rebuild themselves. They are constantly rebuilding. So you can end up with better, or you can end up with not as good, depending on your nutritional intake, micro and macro, and your stress, and your nutritional and health status kind of in general. So like an example would be if you have hormonal issues, insulin insensitive, diabetes, stuff like that, that's all going to affect how well your bones rebuild themselves. We already talked about the fact that protein amino acids are what the building blocks for bones, tendons, ligaments, cartilage. We didn't say this. This is really super important. Amino acids are used to make neurotransmitters, which tell your brain and you to do all sorts of things in your brain and in your gut, and to feel good stuff and do this and do that. Neurotransmitters. Hormones, cell signaling molecules. Cell signaling molecules. Hey, do this. Hey, okay. Enzymes, immune chemicals, antibodies, immunoglobulins. Don't laugh, Susan. Transport proteins, we already talked about how that gets things in and out of the cell when it's not like passive, and a ton of other things. So, anybody have questions? Protein fact, numero uno. Proteins don't get stored. Bones are mostly protein. If we do not get enough protein and the energy demands are high, either you're sick, you're healing from surgery, you're pregnant, you're an endurance athlete, you have a crazy stressful job, you have high demands on yourself, just because you're not working out doesn't mean that your body isn't being taxed. If the energy demands are high and you're not getting in enough protein, your body will cannibalize itself to make muscle tissue, to make structural proteins such as bones, connective tissue, we already talked about that, to prioritize, and this will prioritize over hormone production and other things. So this is why the endurance athlete that's not eating enough starts missing her period and starts sleeping like crap. You're just not making enough hormones. You're just a whole bunch of different things are filtering down and the systems are going to pot. You're getting stress fractures. Okay. If this deficiency goes on too long, vital systems will start to fail and shut down. So the book that I was reading, it's this nutritional, functional nutritional book, vital systems will shut down. Sleep hormone production, sex hormone production, stress fractures, etc. Fertility issues, depression, neurotransmitters, etc. Okay, so super cool, BK. I'm in on getting in more protein. So a lot of the times the diets are saying eat less carbs, eat less carbs, eat less carbs. Okay, let's stop saying that. Let's start saying eat more protein. Make sure it's a wide variety of protein, so you're getting all of your amino acids, and eat clean food. Eat the complex carbs, get in more protein. More protein, less trash food. That's all you need to do. More protein, less junk carbs. Boom. That's not all you need to do, but how much protein do I need? The American College of Sports Medicine says 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body mass. This is for somebody that's sedentary and not doing jack also. I didn't write that down, but that's what it said. So I did the math for someone that's 170 pounds, that's 130 grams of protein. In my experience with doing nutrition coaching with everybody across the board, but also with endurance athletes, we're getting barely half that, half of what we need, if not a third. And then we wonder why we're not sleeping, why we're stressing out, why we're not stronger, X, Y, and Z, okay? You just don't need to eat protein to have strong muscles. Please don't look at the protein in the weightlifting world and think protein muscles and protein animal. Don't do that, okay? Let's see here. The International Society of Sports Nutrition says 1.4 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body mass. So that's a little bit more than what I just said about me needing 130 grams of protein a day. I worked my tail off today, and I got in, I think, 112. I was working at it. Our food, I mean, you can't do that if you're eating out all the time, or if you're eating at a school, or Holy cow, the school. I mean, a kid's diet, how much protein are they giving these kids in their school lunches? Okay. Other studies, recent studies, are showing that 1.2 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body mass is really awesome. And so these are just sedentary, they ain't doing nothing sort of kind of people. So your protein needs go up if you are training hard and frequently. You are using enzymes to do stuff, to fire stuff, to utilize glucose from your fat and your carbs. You're using enzymes that the amino acids helped you to make. You're rebuilding muscle if you're weightlifting. A physical heavy job, pregnant, injured, sick, recovering from surgery, chronic physical stress or poor digestion, trying to lose weight. So if you are restricting, it says restricting energy. So if you're restricting calories, you need more protein, kind of percentage-wise, in order to keep up with vital stuff. Okay. Just so you know, the Smarties say that the safe upper limit of protein consumption before being dangerous to the kidneys and liver is 3.5 to 4.5 per kilogram daily. So what that means number-wise is 238 to 306 grams of protein daily. 300 grams of protein. I don't know what that even looks like. That's like, gosh, 6 or 7 huge prime steaks. That's a lot of protein. To answer a question, protein shakes, vegan, hope I don't mess this up. Low sugar shake with greens in it, 20 grams protein. So Sarah, what I would say on that is that sounds awesome. The low sugar, I would suggest that yes, low sugar is important, but you need to understand that you have to have carbs with protein in order to utilize the protein. 20 grams of protein per scoop sounds wonderful. I think the number that you need to watch out for in one section of time is 40 grams, where it becomes a little bit dehydrating for the kidneys. 40 grams of protein is a lot in one sitting, but that sounds wonderful. The thing that I coach my people on when we're doing protein shakes and whatnot is think about how nature intended it. And so if you're looking at earth-provided sources of protein/fat, they don't come separate. Protein, fat, right? You have your almonds, there's protein and there's fat. You have your avocados, protein, fat, and some carbs. You have beans, boom, boom, boom. Oil, you just have fat mostly. Your grass-fed organic beef, which is probably the number one thing to do for folks struggling with hormone issues because of the omega-3s in it. Protein, fat. So just in my personal opinion, the things that, we need to understand about what people are saying about what's right and wrong is what the human beings have done to adulterate the food. So in the cow world, the hormones associated with eating that. In the plant-based world, how we have processed the food in order to clean it up. We want to try to get to how nature intended it, and that's mostly my only thought on protein shakes. And when I'm doing protein shakes, I try to get something that's a little less carby because I'm trying to minimize the carbs right now to become more insulin sensitive. And then I try to get my carbs from real food, from fibers, because you need the fiber for your gut to be fed, and that's missing sometimes out of your protein shakes. And it needs the fat to go in with it too. So I would add coconut oil to either my shake or my coffee with my shake. if that makes any sense. Okay, here we go. So this article goes through, because here was the question. So we've been doing an intensive 3-day food journal. Coach is asking me for my Fitness Pal, and that's when it gets really real, because she's looking at my stuff and she's pulling stuff out and she's looking at, and the question comes up, how do I know if I'm getting all the amino acids? And especially the ones that you can't make. So remember, there's 20 of them, and then there's 8 that you don't make. And you want to make sure that you're getting a wide variety so you get those 8. And apologies for the dog toy. So in the article that goes with this, and again, the link is going to be down there and on the website with this video, I put a list of where these 8 essential amino acids can come from. So if you look at this and then they're like, okay, I'm going to get a variety of food. Eggs are really good. Black beans, quinoa, pumpkin seeds, fish, nuts, seeds, cottage cheese. And so the list goes down on kind of the things that have all of these essential amino acids. And then if you get a wide variety throughout the week, you're going to be fine, as long as you're kind of hitting that number and they're clean. And you're not getting all of your protein from a shake. I don't think we should be doing that, because there's so many components in the real food that we need. And I'm just going to say it here, both animal and plant products have all the amino acids, essential amino acids, so they're considered complete proteins. So we get a little caught up in some what is plant-based versus animal-based have. And there's some articles at the bottom of this article that talks about, it's a really good write-up that I did that talks about if you're going to get protein from your plant-based, here's the pros and cons, and if you're going to get protein from animal-based, here's the pros and cons, because there's pros and cons for both. One of the biggest things that I think that the plant-based people don't understand, and I'm sorry about the squirrel, but it's coming up now, is that the plant-based world, if you're only eating stuff from the plant-based world, the plant-based world has anti-nutrients. So your plants, because they can't move, are designed with anti-nutrients so bugs and stuff don't eat them. These anti-nutrients are not good for you on a mass level. And so that's where we're coming up with all in moderation. That article talks about that, and it's kind of cool. I didn't know that until I read the article, and I'm like, oh, but it makes sense, because plants, since they don't move, have a natural defense mechanism. And then there's some other kind of cool things between what's going on like in the vitamin world, and that's going to be the next video that I'm going to do. The vitamin world, I think it was vitamin A, more absorbable for you from a plant-based source than an animal-based source, and I could have got that wrong. Anyway, end of that squirrel rabbit. So I don't think for most normal people that it would be hard to feel sure that you are getting enough of the essential amino acids, if not all of the amino acids, if you were eating on a nice variety. However, this nutrition is a sports functional nutrition book, of course, says that essential amino acids, EAA, supplements can be beneficial for folks that are on restricting energy or calorie intake, training very heavy, training fasted, or needing peri or post-workout recovery. Essential amino acids, EAA. So we know about branched chain amino acids, and I hope I made it very clear that branched chain amino acids are benefiting the muscle. These ECAA supplements would be benefiting the whole body and all of the things that it's doing to support you doing X, Y, and Z, finishing an Ironman, rocking it out, getting the best darn finisher picture ever. Glutamine supplement can help improve immunity and gastrointestinal health. Glutamine is like the number one way to help with leaky gut. It closes the junctions in the gut as well as help to recover with muscle recovery. How was that? Arginine supplementation can improve wound healing. And I found this interesting in how they thought that this was like very specific, but I'm just going to throw it out there. It's an immune issue. Lysine supplementation can help reduce cold sore severity, frequency, and healing time. Interesting factoid. But it's part of your immune system, so they should have said improve immunity. Okay, there are a number of articles at the bottom of this list, and there's a recipe for protein energy balls, and I will just ramble on for maybe 2 more minutes on how I managed to get roughly 120 grams a day without like freaking out and eating a cow. So I'm more of a animal-based eater, just because in this particular point in time, I'm on a lower carb protocol in my stage of training for Ironman, because I'm trying to drop weight and become more insulin sensitive. So I do stuff like I will boil 1 dozen or 2 dozen eggs that I bought from the lady down the street, and so there's hard-boiled eggs in the refrigerator all the time, and eggs are a beautiful source of complete protein. So hard-boiled eggs. And then I found this really cool and awesome sriracha mayo sauce that's supremely high in sodium. So I'm getting a lot of sodium and a little bit of extra fat with that. And it's delish. It's sort of like a deviled egg that you don't have to devil, and it's a little spicy. I cook hamburger patties. I've found a clean source of hamburger patties, and they are spruced up a bit. One of them has jalapenos in it. The other one has cheddar and bacon. And I will cook up maybe 16 patties at once on the little fryer thingy. And those go into the refrigerator. Cooking up chicken. There's beans in there. Again, I'm a little bit lower carb, so the beans kind of blow out that idea, and that's why for right now I'm not doing a lot of protein shakes, because they kind of bump up the carb number. Let's see, what else do I do? Those energy bites are really good, and they kind of take the monotony out of thing, and they're just delish. Those protein energy bites are like almond butter or peanut butter. Got some oatmeal in it, got some flaxseed in it, some honey or some maple syrup, and you can put all little chunks of apple. Oh, they're delish. What else do I do for protein? I cook a lot of like pot roasts. I eat a decent amount of bacon. So, but I try to eat pretty clean, so I'm not worried about the quality of the fat or the meat so much. So right now for me, just to give you an idea, I'm trying to maintain with what I'm doing with training and calorie-wise, trying to get around 20-25% carbs. So it's not super low carb, and a lot of people would argue that a 30% carb diet is actually a normal level carb diet, which actually makes sense because it supports the idea that if you're eating 30% of your food in carbs, you have enough time, enough room in that percentage to get your protein in. Instead of, I went over my carbs because I went over my calories or whatever because my macros, because my carbs were way high and I only got like 25 grams of protein in. That's because you just ate all the carbs and didn't eat enough protein. So anyway, that is our video 3 on metabolism and why protein is needs to be thought of a little bit different than carbs and fats. And we're going to go through carbs and fats as well. I'm not trying to villainize anybody, just need to understand that our protein, our amino acids, it's the building blocks for everything, and we need to give that due credit, and we need to understand that a lot of the things that are going on is because we're not getting enough protein, not getting enough protein fat, and we're getting way too much adulterated crappy food and too many carbs. Okay, anyway, let me know if you have any questions or issues. Questions, thoughts, comments, or you disagree with something. I'm totally open to all of that. And I hope you're having a great day. Namaste.